everyone, it's Michelle from Tape and Twine. Welcome to a very late edition of Tea and Me. I'm getting it. I'm getting August's. Truly right under the wire. I don't think I could get it any closer to the end of August than when I'm doing it. But better late than never, and hopefully September I'll be able to get better on track. August was just a really busy month. So, if you're new to Tea and Me, basically once a month I do a little video that is about all things going on in my journal world, which usually includes maybe some discussions about some thrifting, some happy mail, maybe a recommendation on supplies or a new book I've found that I think people would be interested in. I also try to just sort of show some things that I found in my area, because we all thrift and we all look for treasures and we have different things in our part of the world. So I always find it interesting when people show what they can find, and I have a few things to share which I think are fascinating. I also have a couple quick little crafting tips, I guess, for embellishments and for an ephemera book, which is very inexpensive to make. So I have a lot to talk about, so I will just get right to it. So today, as I always start, first I want to thank everybody for joining me. I would like to thank all my subscribers for coming back, and any new subscribers, welcome. I always start my video with what I'm drinking today. And if you all saw my video in August earlier in the month, I got an amazing happy mail from Liz, liz.uk on IG. And she sent me some wonderful teas. And Liz, look at, I found a little tea box, or what I'm going to call a tea box. And there's this, I found it thrifting, and it's just a wooden box, but it has this area here that I think I'm going to put some kind of picture in. And I found this book, this tea book, and I'm thinking I can find a picture in this and maybe do some collage here. And this will be my Tea and Me tea collection, so I can choose from here each month. So this month I am drinking a tea that Liz sent me. It's a Pickwick, and it's a rooibos, mango, and peach. Now, I like mango. Peach is my least favorite flavor. However, Liz told me I'd like it, and I do. So maybe when it's mixed with mango, it's okay. I do like it, I have to say. So I'm going to actually save this because I'll put this in my journal. It's cute. It's got little elephants on it. And I'm pretty sure the rooibos comes from Africa. So that's probably why there's little elephants on there. So I'm just going to move my tea a little bit over here. And I'm going to close my box. And I'm going to start with a supply that I found this month that I thought I would share with you all. There are a few things that I find when I'm going through all of the people's channels. We all like a lot of the same things, and there was a die that Tim Holtz put out through Sizzix, and it was a book plate, and they don't make it anymore. And we look for them online. They're very expensive, used, and I go a little bit back and forth about AliExpress only because of some of the issues of stealing and pirating. But I will say that there are some supplies that I get through there, and I think I found a really good one that I wanted to share with you, especially if you're looking for the book plate die that is no longer exists. Now, this is not a knockoff of Tim Holtz, and I don't even think it looks the same, but I think it kind of succeeds in what I wanted, which was being able to die cut some book plates for, especially for like maybe soft journals or TN inserts and things like that. So these 4 dies came in a set. And if you're at all familiar with AliExpress, the prices are very good, but you have to wait a little while because you're getting it from far away. So these 4 bookplate dies came as a set. They were connected. I'm going to have to find the link to find out exactly what seller I bought it from, but I think I paid like less than $5 for this set. And I have bought dies one other time on AliExpress, and I found them to be very thin and kind of chintzy. These are not. I find these to be quite good. And I wasn't sure at first whether I was supposed to take this piece out, like punch this piece out. So I left it in just because I figured I would try that first. Nothing comes with instructions. And this is what happens. So they get punched out, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's almost like a little decorative piece where you would put the little pin in. So I do not believe that you're supposed to be taking that little, this out. I think this makes the decorative piece, and it makes like a little cross right here. I don't know if you can see that. And then it has like the center gets, no, that's probably not it. I'd have to find which one this one was. But the centerpiece gets punched out. See? Like that. So I did a bunch of punching, and I just did it on some regular like the back of a notebook, some regular card. Nothing too heavy, just to see how they would come out. And they came out pretty clean. The dies are very crisp. The little decorative piece comes out quite good, and there's like a little area here that kind of embosses in, which I really liked. But then I simply covered them with some inks and some gilding wax, and I think they came out pretty darn good. So let me see if I can find a book or something. I'm going to be showing this book, so we'll use this old book. Now pretend this was our book. I think that's a pretty good little book plate, and depending on how you treat it, you can get it to look a little metallic, and definitely put some hardware in there. So there's that shape, and this shape, and this one, and this one. So I think that's a pretty good set. So I will try to find the information and link it in my box underneath, in the information box under this video, because if you can't get a hold of the old Tim Holtz one, this is a pretty good, I think, replacement for it, and it's very cheap. So that was the first thing I wanted to share with you. The second thing I want to share with you is a book. So I'm sure in other parts of the world, maybe you have this, but in the United States, we have something called the Free Little Library. And the Free Little Library essentially are these little boxes, these little tiny stands that have, some of them look like houses, some of them just look like cabinets, and they're weatherproof, and people put books that they're done reading in them, and then you take a book and you swap a book out. So they're free libraries for you to take books. And recycle books with people. So I was walking through our park, and I always walk by the free library, and I found this book in there. And instantly I was drawn by obviously the pretty pictures and the the colors. But then when I opened it, it's all about gardening. The illustrations are just lovely. The writing is beautiful. The drawings are beautiful. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? I could just picture that in a gardening journal. The text is beautiful. Now, you know, this is not a replacement for Edith Holden, but it's a more modern version of that type of feel between the handwritten and the watercolors and just beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Now, I was very excited about this book, and I couldn't wait to, you know, figure out how I was going to use it. And then I saw this little tag, which I had never seen before. And then inside, I saw this little tag. Now, I have never seen this before. And what this is called a, you go on the website, www.bookcrossing.com, and essentially what happens is you read the book and then you release the book. And when you go online and you type in this number, and then you can write, you know, where you found the book, what you thought of the book, and then you release it out into the world some other way, either through a free library, maybe you send it to a friend in another part of the country, etc. And then when they get it, they register it, and you can follow the journey of the book. So clearly, I am not going to keep this book because this book is not meant to be kept. Usually the books that are in the free library you can keep, but this is a traveling book. So I just wanted to look at the information. So this says the author lives in England. So apparently this is an English book. I'm not surprised. English books are always so beautiful. Although it's printed in Singapore. It was published in 2001, so it's not a brand new book in the sense that it wasn't released last year. So I looked this up on Amazon, and right now, with Amazon Prime, you can get pretty much a nice edition of this book used for about $5 United States. So, you know, I obviously ordered one, and I'm always reluctant to make a recommendation because once we start making recommendations, everybody goes and tries to find them. But because this book is 2001, there should be plenty of copies out there. And again, I didn't realize this was from England. There's probably lots of them all over the world. So I would say I would definitely recommend checking out this book, The Pleasures of Gardening by Angela Stanford. It's beautiful. It's not going to give you that, you know, vintage feel, but it's just a really beautiful book. And if you do nature journals or naturalist type journals, I think you would really enjoy it. So that's my recommendation for a book this month, and this is my recommendation for a product this month. So I'm going to move this on, and I'm going to move on to a couple crafts that I wanted to talk about that I did this month, and let you guys know that this is kind of like a couple things you can think about doing. And I don't think that they're necessarily need a tutorial because I think they're pretty self-explanatory. So with the kids going back to school in the United States, we have the Dollar Tree or the dollar store. Let me grab something really quick here. We have the dollar store, and that store is simply, you know, there's Family Dollar, there's a few brand names in the United States, and I know in other parts of the world you guys have one too. Now, everybody's been making ephemera books to keep their ephemera organized, and I have a couple of those, but I have a lot of stamps, and not stamps, my stamps that are actual postage I keep somewhere else, but these are canceled stamps. These are used stamps, they're vintage stamps, they're stamps that aren't valuable other than being decorative. So I wanted to make a package for, you know, a place to store them. And I went to my Dollar Tree, and they had these $1 little binders, and they're a really nice size. Let me see here. They are almost 9 1/4 high by 7 wide. Now, they're a great chipboard. I don't like the gold. And sometimes you get odd lots at the Dollar tree or whatever. So this is Studio C, and there is a website, the She's Crafty collection. And I'm just going to come up really close to this. And here's the website. It's shopstudioc.com. And I'm reading everything because of my friendship with Liz, I've really realized that people that are having difficulty hearing need the subtitles, and if you're not reading important information, I'm not sure that they get to hear it. So I'm very mindful of that now. But one of the things that I like about this is, look at it's really well made for the dollar store. There's these nice little brass corners, and like I said, this chipboard is excellent. And the size is unusual. It's a smaller size. So what I ended up doing was I had this book, the Golden Book Encyclopedia of Natural Science. And this is the A to B. So I'm not sure how many volumes there are, but multiple, I would say at least a dozen in this series. And this is probably from the 60s or the 70s. What I loved about this is the inside end papers are gorgeous. I just love the illustrations on them. They're just the bee's knees, I'll call it. And they had, a page on this side and this side. So I got to cut those pages out, and all I simply did was take that binder and cover it. I added my own corner just because I wanted to protect it. And then I just, slipped some fabric. I put a stitch in the fabric. Obviously, I didn't sew it on here. And it just makes for a really beautiful ephemera folder. Now inside, let me move my tea, I don't want to hit it. Inside, what I did is they had some cheap stationery packs, like for kits, and they had these plastic envelopes, and they were exactly the right size. So my guess is this might be planner size, so you might be able to find things that go right in there. But what I ended up doing was hole punching some bags that had acetate in them so I could see what was in them. And then slides. 1970s Kodak slides were such a thing that people had these massive, pages of slides, like we have for photo albums, except it was set up just for slides. I might have one on hand that I didn't cut. Let's see if I have one. Here it is. So I don't know if you can see this. Let me move this because you're not going to be able to see it. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 20 areas for slides. And obviously the holes don't match up and it's too big. But I just simply cut it down and put in my old holes, and it's a perfect size for small things like small labels and all my stamps. Now, at first I was cutting it very small. Let me see if I can find a page. I was simply cutting it 2 squares by 4 squares, which fit really nice. But then I realized I could fold it, and I could preserve essentially almost the whole sheet. So I have 16 squares. So I think I got these for free or cheap at an estate sale. I can't remember which. And all I did was, I didn't have to sew or anything. Each one of these is a great little pocket. I have them sorted by people, by birds, by flowers, and now I can flip through and find my stamps really easily. And you can take photo albums or anything that you have that has little sections already in it. How many photo albums do we all have that you can use that to organize your things? And in the back, I just put an envelope that I can put some other things in, and it has a very cool envelope on each side that was already, oh no, I put this in. Oh my gosh, not very bright, Michelle. So I put this envelope on each side instead of an end paper, and then I can stash even more. So this, and then this is a dollar store hair tie. So at my dollar store, this cost me less than $2 to make. $1 for this, pennies for this. And let's say I might have paid $1 for the slides if I paid anything at all. So really super, super cheap. I have a book plate, and that's it. It was a super, super easy project. So I think what I'm going to do with this one is many of us have these planting sheet. They were a big binder of gardening back in the 70s. Well, if I hole punch, I think I'm going to be able to make pockets and do more organizing in here. So that's an upcoming project, so look out for that. But if you have a Dollar Tree near you, go and look at their binders, even any dollar store. This time of year, they have some decent odd lots. So I wanted to show you that. The other little craft I wanted to show you, and I just recently did a video for my friend Amy's Happy Mail. And when I was putting the folio together, if you watch that video, you'll see I picked a metal button. I don't know if I have another one. I found an old metal button that had a center that was missing. And I had this idea of putting something in the center and putting glossy accents, and I was going to give it to her. But then when I got close to it, I realized it had rhinestones around the edge, and actually all the rhinestones except one were missing. So I don't like to give things that I know are really not in good shape away, but I figured I'd still try the project. So if you watch that video, you'll know that this button was simply plain inside. It must have had a cabochon or something at some point in the center, but it was just plain metal. And I don't know if you can see, but all these holes are where the rhinestones went, and there's literally like one left. So what I did try though was I simply took a hole punch. Let's see if I can find the hole punch. It's right here. It's really the size that you would use maybe for a reinforcer, a page reinforcer. And simply what I did was I went to a botanical stamp. I cut the image out. I put a little glossy accents on the button and stuck it on. Waited a little bit, and then I put some glossy accent on the top. Now, glossy accent needs to sit for like overnight. You can't get near it right away, but if you can kind of pick up on that, it's pretty good. And I really like how it came out. So I would say if you have buttons, and the phone's ringing, hold on, sorry about that. So if you have, let's say, a button, this one is metal as well, I could cut out a piece, put some adhesive there, put it on top, put the glossy accent, and then make my own embellishment. So that's just a little idea using this, and glossy accents looks like this. I believe you could also use Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. I happen to have this, but I believe you could use that product as well. So those are two little crafts that I wanted to share, and I didn't think needed a full-on tutorial. And now I'm going to take a break for a second and have some tea. Stay with me. Okay, I have a really exciting thing to show you. Actually, a couple. So the first one I want to show you is I went to visit my uber talented cousin Sue in Vermont and went thrifting with her. And there was some great stores up her way. And I found this book, which, first of all, how much do you love when you find a book that when the binding's off, you can see the paper they used underneath? I love when I find that. This book is like ancient. And this paper on the inside, I just love the pattern. Can you see the pattern? I'm definitely going to be making a digital of this. And this book is from the basically what it is it's a magazine. It's the Peterson's magazine from 1874. So what they would do is you could get the magazine individually, or you could get the bound book. And that would give you an entire year. And we don't have the binding, but usually it would say essentially on there what the magazine was and what the dates were. So when I first looked at this, I thought, well, this is really interesting. Well, what I really loved about it is, if you think about it, this is a woman's magazine. And it has a lot of the things that women's magazines have today, but they were really designed for entertainment for the day. So this is from January to June 1874, and it says inclusive. So that means it's the entire magazine. So this must have been on the cover. Maybe this was the cover of the magazine. And then it has the contents, sorry. And what they try to do is they have poetry. Submitting poetry was a really big thing. You wanted to get published, people sent things in. So there's always original poetry in there. There's articles, stories, and then there's engravings that people would make. Some would go with the stories, some would just be just for artwork, because people would cut them out and actually put them up in their home. And then there was music, there was fashions of the day, sort of like our fashion magazine. So this would, you know, look at this picture here. Can you see that? How wonderful is that? I hope that's focusing. And they would have hairstyles and clothing, and then they would have patterns. They would have patterns for embroidery and work, and they would have songs. You know, back then, women, especially upper class women, were encouraged to have arts, to have handiwork, to be able to play music, to play on a spinet. And so this includes a lot of that. And then they have these stories that are like sections of a book. They're chapters. So this one's chapter 1, and then the next magazine had chapter 2, which I think is just fascinating. So every month you would get a little installment. So I absolutely love this magazine, and because I have to check on the copyright, because of the age, I think I am fine to start circulating this, and I can't wait to sort of start making some kits or selling some of what's inside here, because it's beautiful. I wanted to show you, oh, and there's some pressed flowers. Can you imagine how old those flowers are? There's ads, which I just think are fantastic. And then there's even patterns. Let me see if I can find one of the colored patterns. So this would be a pattern for a slipper embroidery. Isn't that phenomenal? So there's patterns for collars and laces and all sorts of things. See the marriage certificate, now we're on, I don't really know what Roman numerals, I wish I could tell you what they were, but this is farther along. And this is, I'm not sure what month this is. We're talking 1874. So yeah, we're still in there. So it must be a monthly magazine. And so just really, really cool. This, look at this. Look at this butterfly. Isn't that awesome? This slipper for the embroidery. I mean, for, yeah, embroidery, right? So that's just really fabulous. So this was a huge find. I'm really thrilled to have this. Not sure what I'm going to do. Look at this right here. You can see where some paper was ripped off. So that was my first big find. Oh. This is my second big find. I can't even fit this on screen. I'm going to turn it sideways. This is enormous. It measures probably 15 inches, 14 inches by 8 inches. And the spine is all leather. And it says Ledger in gold. And it's a cloth. here and all leather and gilded here, and it's a ledger. And when we opened it, there was all this marbled paper, and I don't know if you can see, but it was done by letter here. Now, a lot of these are ripped off, but they had all the different letter dividers. And at first, I didn't know what I was looking at. I knew it was a ledger, but it was a ledger that someone had turned into, I'm going to move this because I don't want to hit it. It was a ledger that was turned into a glue book. So on this side, which I know you can't see this side, but this side is all poetry and news clippings that this person clipped out. And this side is all artwork that she liked. And my guess from what I can tell is that this is probably like a retired lady who in the evenings or during the day would read her magazines and newspapers and put things in here. So there's marriage and death and things like that. And I marked some pages because there's just so much in here. And they would put like she would put seed pages from catalogs. And the fascinating thing was you could see all the ledger in the background that they wrote on. So she was repurposing later in life a ledger that they had used. Now the ledger was like from the well, I'll get to that. I forget, somewhere this was happening around 1888, but this was back from the day, and I'll get to what I found out it was. So all these little numbers in the margin here, you could tell was used when they were actually working in this ledger. So she goes on to do this, and this is all great. Beautiful pictures and lots of poetry. She had, I love the numbers in the corner. This is what I wanted to read to you. I find this fascinating. So she cut this out of this was from Vermont, United States, and she cut this out, and this was, I guess, the gossip column or the society, whatever, of the day in East Calais, Vermont. So this is what was the news of the day. Miss Lucy White entertained Albert Waterman on Sunday. How interesting is that you have a caller come and it actually makes the paper. Christine Parker has returned from Peacham, where she has been visiting friends. So you go on a trip, they let you know you're home. Miss Emily McLeod is gaining. A postcard shower was given her by her friends Friday, February 26th. So I don't know what gaining is. Maybe pregnancy, a postcard shower. I'm not sure where the postcard shower is. I'm going to have to look into that. Mrs. Alex Robinson, who has been ill, is improving. Mrs. Herman Pike has been ill with a cold for the past week. Lawson Hobart is visiting his sister in Green Bay. Miss Maxwell, the nurse who has been caring for Miss McLeod, has returned to Montpelier. The Crescent Club meets on Thursdays with Mrs. Arthur White, and there was a surprise party for Homer Lane last evening. And then it goes on to... hold that thought. Sorry about that. When you have dogs and another dog walks by in the street, it's mayhem. Anyhow, what I really loved about this was all the little tiny things, like somebody giving a thanks for their sunshine box. Is that the same as what we consider Happy Mail? Perhaps. But, the fact that this is making the paper is just so small town and such a different time period. But at the same time, as much as I was cracking up about this, really, how different is this than some of our posts on Facebook when we talk about what we had for lunch, or when we talk about somebody who's visiting us, or that our kids have a cold? I think we've always sort of been the same, haven't we? We talk about the small parts of our day, and we're interested in our community. So as much as I thought this was funny, we're really still doing it. We're just doing it in a different way and on a different scale. So that kind of entertained me. So I'm going to flip here, because I just found this really interesting. This is like a ad for teachers' Bibles, and it was just such a beautiful ad. And this right here, I don't know why she cut this out, but this ad that says, "You dirty boy," and she's like washing this child with soap, you know. Of course, she's probably like 37 because that's how they looked. Everybody looked so old. These were McCormick Spices ads. I don't know what it is about, 1890s, 80s. When I went thrifting recently with Sharon, we noticed that this time period, the proportions of the people were always so different. Like the heads were so big for the bodies, and adults they made look like children, and children they made look like adults. I don't know. It was just, I guess, the style of the time. And then, what did I have here? I'm not sure why I put this one, but I'll keep moving on. So, this might be. So this is like where all of a sudden it switches over to the ledger. And there's pages that are missing. So she's even cut out pages. I don't know why. Maybe she needed the paper. Maybe it was something confidential. Who knows? And I started trying to read it. And it's definitely dates back from like the 1860s and these 1860s, 1870s. And from what I can figure out is they owned a store. And these were individual people's accounts. So in this case, it has the name on the top, and then it has what they bought, how much each month, how much they owed because you bought on credit, and then it would say when, they paid it. And sometimes it would be funny, there'd be a notation that would say, "My mistake," and it would be a correction in the account, which kind of cracked me up. And I did notice that in a lot of poetry, I wanted to bring this up of this time, there was a lot of poetry about children dying, which is just really sad, but I think it speaks to the fact that families at that time, the mortality rate was so much higher for children. So, people wrote a lot about their feelings, about what was going on. I think people were a lot tougher back then. So maybe this was a way of getting out their emotions, and people clipped things that spoke to them. So she had this clipped. I'm not sure why. Oh, see, "My mistake." And it's a correction in there. So it's all done in pen and ink. It's just amazing. I'm still trying to decode what some of this stuff says. Some of it is very farm related, like eggs and milk and butter, and then some of it looks like supplies. I don't know if it's a general store or not. The writing is sort of hard to figure out, but I just thought this was an amazing, amazing book, and they wanted $20 for it. And when I went up to ask a question, she thought I wasn't happy with the price, so she said, "Okay, you can have it for $17." Are you kidding me? Crazy, crazy. So I just had to share this book because I think it's amazing. I think that to have a general store ledger, it's the papers all marbled over here, to have the ads, to have the clippings, to have that piece of history is really terrific. So at this point, I think I have shared enough. I'm almost done my tea. See, Liz? And I wanted to just finish up with a couple small things. The first thing I wanted to finish up with is another big thank you to Liz. And I loved the package she sent me was so thoughtful. I still have it in the box and I still look at it almost every day because it thrilled me so much. I want you to go over to her channel. She just had her newest edition of Sharing the Love, which is a really terrific program she's putting out once a month where she profiles other junk journalers and paper crafters, and she does it in such a thoughtful way. I think you will really enjoy it. The second thing I wanted to do is thank my friend Sharon from Mad Paper Crush. our journal community is exceptional, and the support and generosity that you've shown me, it continually inspires me every day. And one of the things I really don't like about this community is how far apart we are, in that we have these relationships, but a lot of times we may never meet. When I found out that Sharon's daughter goes to college an hour from me and she was coming to drop off her daughter, I immediately asked her if she wanted to meet up, and she was game, which is wonderful because I know it can be very scary to meet a stranger. And we had the most amazing time. We have so much in common. She's really so knowledgeable and I love what she does. I hope you'll go to her channel and check her out. But she brought me a wonderful gift, and I'll either attach it to this video or I'll make a separate video, I'm not sure. We didn't end up opening each other's gifts because we were so busy shopping, and I think we both just wanted to enjoy it later. So I have an unboxing video that I've made of what she gave me. So I'll share that. And I just want to reach out and say, as wonderful as our relationships are, if you know of somebody that lives somewhat near you, make the effort to maybe meet up and go thrifting or craft together, because there's something really great about being with people who truly understand what junk journaling is all about and understands the obsession that we have with it, because I think a lot of people think we're crazy, and our art truly is art to us, and when you're speaking the same language, it just kind of fills your soul. So I just wanted to sort of tell Sharon again how much I enjoyed our day. I can't wait to spend some more time together and thank her for her generous gift. So that's it for the August Tea with Me. Thank you for stopping by, for hanging, for chatting. If there's anything that I talked about in this video that you want to know more about or that you have a comment about, please leave it in the comments below. I'll try to link as much stuff in the box as I can remember I talked about. And I'll see you in September. Have a great rest of the summer, guys. Bye.